Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the evening session of the City Council meeting. The meeting is now called to order, and I would like to ask our City Clerk to call the roll.
All council members are present.
Mr. Harold Brown, would you be willing to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing afterwards for a brief moment of silence?
Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Graham, is our plaque recipient here?
She's not. She was not able to make it.
All right, we're on agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
No changes, sir.
Council members? No. That brings us to public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, council, authority, and agency members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any cards under public comment?
We have no cards, sir.
All right, we'll get right to it then. We are now at public hearings. Item 100 is for the fiscal year 2020 and 2021 CDBG and home allocations. And staff, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As we do every year this time, this is the first of two public hearings for the City Council's allocation of CDBG and home funds. And this year I'd like to welcome one of our newest staff members, Mary Brooke Cox, who now works in our housing division. She'll make the presentation to the City Council.
Hi, Mary.
Hi,
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as you know, the city receives grant funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development every year. In order to receive this money, we must submit a one-year action plan, which is what we'll be discussing tonight. The action plan identifies projects and activities that will meet the goals and priorities identified in the consolidated plan. So just a reminder, the action plan is a requirement for each year of the 5-year consolidated plan, and FY 2021 is the second year of the consolidated plan. So HUD has actually already tentatively allocated just over $1.3 million for CDBG, and then just over $646,000 for our home funds. These amounts are comparable to what we've received in the past. We typically average about 1.2 for CDBG. So per HUD regulations, only 20% of the total CDBG allocation can be used towards planning administration. So that 20% cap is going to be $272,000, $272,888. And then public service also has a cap. It's 15%, and that's going to be just over $204,000. For our capital, which is the capital improvements, public facilities projects, there is no cap for those, and the remaining balance is $886,000, which brings our total CDBG allocation for FY 2021 to $1.3 million, well, just over. Okay, so staff does recommend funding planning and administration in the amount of $272,888. Just shy of $250,000 would go towards admin costs, so that's the cost of running and administering the program, and $25,000 we recommend going to CSA for their fair housing and tenant landlord services. So for our public facilities, those allocations, it's just over $892,000. The bulk of this we recommend going towards the neighborhood streetlight improvements program, $500,000. This would install 40 streetlights in qualified CDBG eligible residential areas. And then ongoing funding for the ADA pedestrian curb ramps and sidewalks at $275,000. And then for our nonprofit partners, Home of Guiding Hands, we recommend funding them at $24,000. This will provide facility improvements to group home at 1401 South Lemon. And then for Boys and Girls Club, they've requested funding for a roof replacement. We do recommend funding at $21,000. East County Transitional Living Center, we recommend funding them at $25,000 for guardrail replacement. And then finally, the continued funding of the city's housing rehabilitation loan program. This funds the mobile home rehab, and we recommend funding at just over $47,000. So moving on to our public services, again, there is that 15% cap. We would like to recommend crime-free multi-housing, funding at just over $49,000, Interfaith Shelter Network at $10,000, Elder Help at $15,000, Meals on Wheels at $25,000, and then East County Transitional Living Center $100,000. The total public service allocation would be $199,107, and then the total CDBG allocation will be $1,364,440. Okay. And so for our home allocations, there's a 10% cap for administration, and then we do recommend funding at $59,000, with $5,000 of that going to CSA, again for the fair housing services. And then for there's a mandatory 15% that you have to reserve for the CHIOTOS, the Certified Housing Development Organizations, and that's reserved for the creation of affordable housing. That's the $96,000 you see reserved there. And then finally, the remaining balance will be $484,763, and we recommend that fall to the housing program pool of funds. So this is going to be the first-time homebuyer program, single-family rehab, and admin costs associated with the mobile home rehab. And each of these programs assist the city in meeting goals that are identified in the con plan. So that's always a win. Okay, so for tonight, we would love City Council to open the public hearing and accept public testimony, approve the proposed FY 2021 CDBG allocations, and then approve the proposed FY 2021 home allocations. Following tonight's public hearing, there's still a few more steps along the way, but staff will prepare the one-year action plan. The second public hearing will be on April 28th at that City Council meeting, at which point City Council will have the opportunity to approve the final allocations, and at that point adopt the one-year action plan. We will then submit to HUD, wait for their approval, and funds should be available after July 1. If there are any questions from Council, Jamie and I are more than happy to answer.
Let me see. Council questions? Just on under this last part where it says entitlement programs, no cap.
Okay.
So I've got the first three. There's nothing set aside, and the last one is for $484,763. Does that mean they're all sharing in a pool for?
Under the home allocation? Okay. Yes. So we never have a great idea of which program is going to be the most utilized. So we leave this flexibility. That way, if we have more first-time home buyers, we can put it there, and it just provides us a little bit more flexibility.
So all of these programs can dip into this pool.
Correct.
That's what I thought. Okay. Super. Thanks very much.
Of course.
Oh, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Were there any applications not included on the list of applicants here?
Yes, so we've received 12 eligible applications. The ones that you see in our PowerPoint are the ones that staff is specifically recommending funding. Voices for Children was not included on this.
Right, for funding. Were there any other, how am I saying it? Are there any organizations not shown on these pieces of paper that wanted funding?
We didn't receive an application from them.
Got it, thank you. So this is the totality of everybody who applied for funds?
Absolutely.
Got it, thanks.
All right, thanks very much. Nice report.
Thank you.
Okay, then. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing, and Angela, can you call the first speaker?
Yes, we have 5 speakers. The first one is Tim Ray.
Hello, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Tim Ray, and I'm the East County Manager for the Meals on Wheels San Diego County. Meals on Wheels is respectfully requesting $25,000 from the 2020-21 CDBG program to provide services to 120 low-income homebound seniors living in the city of El Cajon. The funding will provide the food and packaging costs to an estimated 20,800 meals delivered. Each meal delivery is accompanied with a safety check and an in-home social visit to improve the physical and mental well-being of each senior client. Low-income homebound seniors are at risk of malnutrition and social isolation, contributing to negative health consequences with an increased likelihood of hospitalization, institutionalization, or possible homelessness. Meals on Wheels alleviates these risks by delivering healthy meals from caring, trained individuals who nurture ongoing relationships every day, including weekends and holidays, with our senior clients. Regular access to healthy food and social visits reduce healthcare spending, improving one's health, and reduces the likelihood of nursing home use, thereby reducing government benefit expenditures. Meals on Wheels subsidizes 60% of the cost for meals, delivery, and other services provided. Regardless of the senior's ability to pay, further subsidies are provided for seniors who are experiencing severe financial difficulties. Meals on Wheels has been serving low to moderate income homebound seniors throughout San Diego County for 60 years. The continued support for these funds is needed in order to reach and serve more low-income homebound seniors in need living in the city of El Cajon. We greatly appreciate the Council's many years of support and thank you for recognizing the importance of our work in your community. And we look forward to continuing our relationship with the city of El Cajon. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Let me see if there's any questions. Any questions? I just want to say I've always been a big supporter of Meals on Wheels, and my heart was always touched when I went out with the people that volunteer for you, and I've always been struck by the fact that the food seemed to be the least important part of the process. People were happy to get the food, but they really wanted the companionship and the ability to talk to somebody, and I thought that was very telling about how good work your organization does. So thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Estela de los Ríos.
Hello, how are you tonight? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to take this opportunity again to thank you for having CSA San Diego County be your fair housing provider. I'm very proud to say that for our second year now, we're a HUD-approved agency. What does that mean? That means we're providing first home-time buyers outreach and education. We're able to give certificates, and then they can come to the city of El Cajon and apply for a home buyer loan. So I just wanted to add that part as well. With your ongoing support, we've been able to assist many clients from issues of inhabitability, repairs, and most importantly, evictions and fair housing. Evictions, I'm saying because I think it's like it's a prevention from being homelessness. We have a lot of counselors that are able to mediate with tenants and landlords and management companies not to, use anything that would any factors that would give that family to be homeless. So we try to mediate and negotiate so that it will prevent the homelessness. And as you all know, the task force is very active here in the East region, so we like to participate in that. We've provided reasonable accommodations for people that are disabled, and again, these are for low-income communities, and so I'm very proud that we can provide these fair housing services. I also want to thank the code enforcement collaboration and a special acknowledgement to LC Wright because we work very closely with him in regards to the inhabitability issues, and with the collaboration. It's great. It's awesome. We've been able to mediate also some issues with the units here in El Cajon, and I'd like to thank you for that. So I'm here to say thank you, and also to request your ongoing support to have CSA San Diego be your fair housing provider. And I'm open for any questions. Any questions?
Thanks very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
all the good work you do.
Thank you.
Harold Brown.
Harold, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City staff. I want to thank you once again for considering funding the East County Transitional Living Center Emergency Shelter Program. I believe this is the 15th year that we've applied, and over those 15 years, we have assisted thousands of families off the streets, out of their cars, into the shelter, and then into permanent housing and/or long-term programs. We've also assisted probably tens of thousands of kids that have come off the streets that were living in their cars, weren't getting healthy meals, weren't making it to school on time, probably weren't getting very good night's sleep, and not performing well in school. And the last thing a single mom needs with 3 or 4 kids inside of her car is calls from the school because all her kids are failing because they don't have Wi-Fi to be able to do their homework. So over the years, the program has literally changed the course of thousands and thousands of our citizens into permanent housing, becoming tax-paying citizens of our city, and just one of the most fabulous programs I've ever been associated with. Really, in our wildest imagination, when we started the program, we had no idea of the tremendous success that it has had and continues to have. So thank you for considering funding us again. We're looking forward to taking another 200-300 families off the street this year, getting them into permanent housing, getting their kids in school with health care, and providing a lot of hope for them. So thanks again. Yeah.
Thanks. Let me see if there's any questions. Bob?
Harold, what seems to be the tie-up on the new building?
Well, we're just waiting for the building permits to be approved. Funding is secured. The builders are ready to build it. We're still planning on doing the speed build with a 12-hour build for the 2 dormitories, which will open up 30 to 40 rooms for those additional families to be able to come in off the street. The biggest waiting list we have right now are families that are living in their cars. The last bastion of hope that they have is that automobile. And the longer they stay out there, the sooner the danger of them losing that and then literally becoming on the streets. We want to try to stop that from happening so we don't have chronic homeless happening in our town.
Maybe our city manager can kind of poke them so that they move along a little faster to get those building permits issued so we can get on with this program. It's been dragging on and on and on and on.
Going through the process.
Nobody's any more anxious about it than I am. I just really think that management needs to just put their nose to the wheel and get it done, and speedily.
Thank you.
A couple years ago, you talked about a area for people who are living in their cars in your parking lot, and at that time, I think you requested some CDBG funds for a wrought iron fence.
Yes.
Along the front, and what happened with those plans?
We have completed the first section of fence, which encompasses the property of East County Transitional Living Center, and we've requested funding from the county to finish the fence going down along the portion of 1523, which is where the conference facility is and all the studies and stuff happen. We're anticipating to get those funds. Actually, we're going to build the fence anyway. So the fence starts March 25th. And so when that goes up, automation will come in. And I'm working with Jewish Family Services to see if they can help us run a safe parking lot. If they can't run a safe parking lot, then we'll figure out how to run one. But I'd like to partner with them because they've been doing it for a long time. We have all the tools to be able to do it ourselves, but that would be staffing and everything else. So by the end of the year.
Thanks, Harold.
Yep.
Claudia Gavin.
Claudia, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Claudia Gavin, and I'm here representing Elder Help. I'd like to start off by thanking you for your continuous support and partnership over the years. Because of the support, we are able to serve low to very low income seniors, many who are isolated in their own homes, by improving their quality of life through services such as transportation, grocery shopping, home safety maintenance, daily live checking calls, companionship, personalized information and referrals, case management, and much more. The fact that we charge nothing for our services means that no one is ever turned away due to inability to pay. What makes us so unique is the relationship that we develop with each senior that we serve, whether it's in their home or over the telephone with our information and referral services, where we can spend up to 30 minutes at a time offering comfort and support, especially to those in distress. Our help goes well beyond transaction of services, rather an unquantifiable benefit, really. To give an idea of some personalized impacts, I'd like to share a couple stories with all of you. Kathy joined our organization when her doctor referred her to us as he was preparing to move offices from the city of El Cajon to Mission Valley. Prior to her doctor's move, Kathy was driving herself, but with the added distance and traffic, she no longer felt safe driving herself. And with all of her children out of state and being unable to afford ride services such as Lyft and Uber, she contacted us, and we've been providing rides to her ever since. It wasn't long before Kathy began exploring more of our services and has since then joined staff and our volunteers to additional outings to Mission Trails, to the public library. And she's repeatedly told us how grateful she is for our services and describes our volunteers as friendly, kind, and generous. Margaret joined Elder Help shortly after her husband passed away. Because she has significant vision impairment, suddenly being on her own was particularly difficult. So although she was faced with new challenges, she was determined to stay active and busy, so she enrolled with our transportation program for regular rides to the YMCA. Since then, we have happily modified our services to meet her changing needs, at first only needing rides, and now receiving regular grocery shopping services from her trusted volunteers. We've also installed a couple of grab bars in her home so she can feel safer getting in and out of the shower. And at 94 years young, Margaret still goes to the YMCA often and takes pleasure in rewarding her Elder Help volunteers with a piece of freshly picked fruit from her yard. Our collaborative and personalized approach from staff and volunteers helps fill those gaps that our seniors face in our current healthcare and social service system, from preventing rehospitalizations through thorough home safety inspections and modifications, to reducing food insecurities that seniors like Kathy and Margaret can feel at ease knowing that they can remain comfortable and safe in their own homes. At this time, we are asking for your continued support and consideration to help fulfill this mission that is very near and dear to our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thanks.
I went over, sorry.
Next year, you owe me 20 seconds, so it's okay.
Last speaker is Cristina Piranio.
Hi, Christina.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cristina Piranio, and I'm with Voices for Children. We are a first-year applicant for the CDBG funding, and I wanted to share a little bit about our organization and our program. Our mission is to transform the lives of children in foster care by providing them with a court-appointed special advocate, a CASA. And so to give you a background of how that works, when a child is removed from their home and enters the foster care system, they are embraced by the system, which includes social workers, judges, lawyers, and many professionals that take care and regard for their well-being and upbringing. However, what we find year after year is that young people are oftentimes not always taken into consideration, and that their individual needs cannot be met just by the burden that is already the foster care system. So 40 years ago, our founders, in partnership with the juvenile court, determined that if each child could be matched with a community volunteer who would have the needs of that one child in mind, that some of the devastating effects of foster care could be alleviated, like loss of community, loss of school placement, and loss of friends, among the many other challenges that come from being removed and placed in foster care in the first place and the trauma experienced. So our CASAs are community volunteers of all ages and experiences. We identify upwards of 300 new CASA volunteers to meet the needs of children throughout San Diego County. Each CASA goes through a 35-hour training program where they learn about the foster care system, child abuse, trauma, court procedures, and other topics that help CASAs be prepared to support their child. Our CASA's biggest role, however, is to provide a court report to judges in juvenile court and ensure and are advocating on behalf of the child and the child's needs. But also CASA's become that person in a child's life that is much more consistent than any other at that time, during that time in their lives. So in El Cajon, Voices for Children, based on our experience, we anticipate that 195 City of El Cajon children will spend time in foster care in the next fiscal year, and that 70 of whom will enter foster care for the first time. And here in El Cajon, we have a staff member who is stationed every day in the courthouse. And the reason for that is to make sure that every single child or every single case presented any given day in juvenile court is that we are quickly notifying our team to be able to provide a CASA match if that's needed for a child. But it's not only the children that our organization serves. We also have 27 CASAs who live in the city of El Cajon, and many children live in foster homes that are here also in the city of El Cajon. And so the city plays such a large role in the care of foster the community. And so we're grateful for the chance to present this to you this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
No more cards, sir.
All right, then make a motion to close public hearing. Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, gentlemen, it's up to us. Looks like the staff's done a good job of allocating for everybody. I don't see a lot of changes, but if somebody wants to make recommendations for changes, I'm open to that.
I'm sympathetic to foster children. So I just kind of, what would be the staff's position for not providing any funding?
Well, I think, so what was the rationale for that? I think partly we've not worked with this organization. The council in the past has given direction to try to benefit as the broadest group in the community as possible. This does not, it's a pretty targeted group, a worthwhile group, but it's a very targeted group. That's a bit of our concern. And there's really, we can't really measure how much impact that program would have on those 195 foster children in the city of El Cajon. So that's some of the rationale. And frankly, we don't have all the money. We don't have enough money to give to everybody. And so it would be either a matter of eliminating one of the other programs. If we were to fund it at the half of the request, it would take about 20% from all the other organizations. And that's sort of the options that we went through. And at the end of the day, we know that we have some proven track records with some of the other entities. And so we wanted to fund that at 100%.
Are you able to take money from the City Public Works $500,000 or the City Public Works $275,000?
No, because this is the 15% cap.
Of money.
I'm sorry, like 4 people answered me at once.
Oh, I'm sorry. You could take it from the city police services at the top of the same section.
But you can't take it from the streetlights because this program is capped at 15% of the overall allocation.
Okay. So the 199,107 is the total pie.
There's $5,500 more residual, so there's a little bit of play there, but only $5,500.
I don't know, guys. $5,500 for foster kids seems like a
No, I don't
reasonable
have,
flyer.
I don't have a problem with that at all. You can, Graham, at the top of this, it says crime-free multi-housing program. My understanding from having done this before is that if we take money from that, then we just have to backfill that with general fund money, right?
Correct. And you've done that, by the way, every year for the last several years. So the general fund is picking up a bigger percentage of that. And I'm just going to give you the full picture. If you were to take money away, and let's say next year, 3 of these entities said, we don't need your money, we could not add that money back into our own program. So we can't augment our own program. So whatever you set it at, that becomes the limit we can ask for this program in future years.
We're spending time working in mental health. Of all these programs, the Voices for Children one is probably the one that's probably the best funded through the county. Or not Voices for Children specifically, but foster care. There's a lot of resources for foster care, but so they're not completely going without. But I think that we'd be probably everybody would be open to take some out of the community policing money.
Well, I'm not in favor of that. I guess to hear right, you're saying if we set it at 5,000, next year it can't go above 5,000.
That's correct.
Where's that 5,000 coming from?
Well, I think Mr.
In my
Goble just
example.
gave us an example. So if we were to, it's at you're funding it. Well, we're recommending funding it at 49,107. So if you fund it at 49,105 this year, we could not ask for more than 49,105 next year.
Yeah.
And any future year?
Or any future year.
Wow. That
Because
just
you
seems
can't
nuts.
augment a city program.
That's just
So this was funded.
wise common sense in terms of if somebody's doing good and you want to give them more money next year, you should be able to give them more money.
Well, you can
I understand it's the rules, but talk about government like not making sense.
You can give other entities more money. We can't give our city program more money.
I get it. I get the rules. They don't make common sense. If somebody's doing well and they want to double it next year, that's the way that's the nuts part of it. I guess I have a question for, is it Christina? Can I ask you a question? Do I need to reopen the public hearing?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just do that. We'll do it right. Make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Second.
Please vote.
Nothing in government makes sense.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
That's the frustrating part of government. So tell me, what are your other sources of funding?
So we are funded by some other government sources, and we're funded by private individuals, and we're funded also through foundations and some corporate support as well.
So you're here in El Cajon asking because you didn't get funding somewhere else, or you're trying to expand a program? What?
Right, because in our funding sources, each time all of the funding sources are critical to being able to provide the services to the children. And because we never always know where dollars will come from year to year, and government dollars are not consistent, we make asks kind of broadly.
Okay.
And so that would be why.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Make a motion to the closed public hearing. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Well, I'm going to say, knowing that having learned that the foster care system probably gets the bulk of its funding down to the county level, I think I'll just stick with the schedule as proposed.
Okay. Well, anybody else have anything they want to? We've got a lot happening here. Anybody want to consider a compromise on this and give them something like $5,000?
I'm okay with that. I think I think $5,000 is good. It's a good gesture for foster kids. I get they get perhaps hundreds of thousands or hopefully more than that for, for that kind of thing. But it shows a good gesture to the people who pay taxes in El Cajon that we look out for foster kids, even at a nominal level.
Come on up, please.
The federal government does have a lot of strings attached, and they're going to have to implement new reporting systems and a lot of things. I'm not sure what they can do with $5,000. We can't just give it as a contribution.
Okay, that's information I didn't know.
I didn't know that either. So you saying they don't have these systems in place right now?
They may, depending on what other funding sources they have, if they have other federal funding sources, and it wouldn't be too hard to implement, but it would, it includes staff time. It will not, $5,000 will not allow them to add another staff person or expand their program. It simply funds what's already existing, which is not, it's the same principle behind the crime-free.
So
we're looking for new or added services.
So it sounds like you're recommending not this year.
Correct.
I have a suggestion. I would suggest sticking with the schedule as proposed. We have a second reading in a month or so. And if we get new information from Voices for Children, such as what would you do with $5,000? Would it go towards a van, some asset rather than salary, or something that doesn't have the same amount of strings? If that information can come to us in the next month, we have the option a month from now of saying, let's make that adjustment then.
This is also not unusual for somebody not to get their allocation on the first time they come, but in subsequent years get more money because they come and they realize what they have to do as far as explain to us where the money's going to go. And so it would probably be a good first step, and then have them come back next year and ask for a larger amount of money, but ask for it with a plan.
I'm hearing they can't ask for a larger amount of money.
They're not going to be. Anybody can ask for more money every year. They're not getting any money this year. If we
yeah.
We don't get any.
The rule is the agency, the city. If we've been funding program with CDBG monies, and we decrease it in 1 year, you can never go back up over that amount for the city.
Yeah,
but for the other nonprofits, they can go up and down and do whatever they need to do.
I remember a number of years ago, and maybe some of the staff is still here when we handled that. We allocated about $5,000 to a nonprofit, and they didn't take the money because they said it was so much paperwork for the nonprofit. I see Tony nodding.
Mayor and Council, we won't go back on what that nonprofit was, but however, if the City Council decides that they'd like to allocate $5,000 to Voices for Children, they can certainly do that, tentative to providing information to staff and understanding what the reporting requirements are, and if they're in agreement with that, and they bring information that provides council with suitable information that the $5,000 allocation is worthy, then we can certainly work with them on that.
We have the. You mind if we open up the public hearing again and ask her to come up and ask the representative how she feels about this?
That's up to you.
Yeah, I'd like to. Make a motion to
reopen
the public hearing. Second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Now, this is one of those awkward times when we're talking about you and you're still in the room.
That's okay.
But
if I can be helpful, if it's to give you. Yeah,
so
I'm
you've heard what the staff has said, and this was news to us. We didn't realize that, that the reporting requirements might be so onerous that it's not worth the $5,000. How do you feel about that?
I want to be really honest. Sometimes the government reporting requirements, although we've never been funded by the City of El Cajon, so I don't know yours specifically, and they vary city to city. But we do steward currently a City of San Diego CDBG fund and grant award, and we are familiar with funding requirements there. So that's what I can speak to with regard to our experience with CDBG funds, and what in kind of at our organization, the way we look at dollars is that for every child that we serve, it's $2,000 per child for the time that the child is in foster care, which is on average about 18 months. So if that gives you a sense of, kind of how dollars would go, that might help to kind of give a sense of, what $5,000, how it would support children that we serve.
From your perspective, would the $5,000 be worth it to comply with all the reporting requirements, based upon your knowledge of other cities?
Based upon our knowledge of other cities, if your reporting requirements are as kind of comprehensive and detailed as the city of San Diego, then I want to speak very frankly and say no.
Okay.
But at the same time, all dollar amounts really do make an impact. But I wish I could compare and know.
I really appreciate your honesty of that. We'll talk about it in the side. If you don't get it, because of what you just said, my suggestion is that you work with staff early next time, and let's, because I think there's a feeling amongst the city council that we think what you do is important, and we'd like to help.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I'd be happy to do that, and I will follow up with your staff if the decision tonight is that, and that's fine. Thank you so much.
Are there more questions for her before we, Bob?
Well, I was a foster parent for about 20 years, and we took in a lot of foster kids, probably 30 or 40, and they were in and out, and some of them stuck. We adopted 2 of them, and I never saw anybody from Voices for Children, but I know the county was out checking up on them regularly and everything, and they seemed to do a pretty fair job of keeping track of them. The only problem I saw with the foster care program at that time, which was many years ago, is that they just hung on and wouldn't let them go for adoption, where I think the system's a little quicker now. And if you have young children, they can be adopted out a lot faster. However, the older ones normally don't get adopted. They're stuck in foster care for a number of years, and by the time they're 18, then they're released by some families. I have a daughter and that still has some that are in their 20s, and they just never went away. And we never let them go. We ended up adopting 2 of them. So anyway, that's not always the case.
It's always a tough one. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thanks for answering so honestly. I appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you.
My experience with this money for the police department, if you cut it back, you don't get it back.
That is true.
I remember when it was a lot more than what it is today. And it was a couple $100,000. And now it's down to $79,000.
I'm going to make a motion then to close the public hearing again.
Or whatever.
Second.
All right, back and forth. Okay.
Motion carries by unanimous
But I
vote.
think that was a worthwhile discussion. So, so anybody else have anything they want to discuss, or someone like to make a motion?
I'd move that we accept the staff recommendation for the allocations.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Good job, Tony, and the staff.
Yeah, and thank you, staff. This is all. It looks easy by the time they get it here, but I know they've put weeks and weeks and weeks of work into all this. So thank you for all your hard work.
And I remember when I first got on the council, it was a fight every year.
Oh yeah, always
knock
is.
down, drag out, to move the money around.
I think this brings us to adjournment. The adjourned regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 25th day of February 2020, is adjourned until Tuesday, March 10th, 2020 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you all very much.